$293 million. That is what investigators intercepted in a single global operation earlier this year. Not stolen, intercepted. The money that got away was so much larger that nobody has agreed on a final number. More than 5,800 and people were arrested across dozens of countries. In converted office parks and gutted hotel compounds where thousands of workers sit in rows of cubicles running scripts written by con artists, not by algorithms. This is not a robbery, it is a factory, and like every factory before it, it has a supply chain, a production line, and a bottom line. Here is how it was built. Start with the raw material, not gold, not oil, trust. For decades, financial fraud was a craft. One con artist, one mark, one carefully rehearsed lie. It took time to build a relationship convincing enough to empty a bank account. It took skill. It took patience. That version of fraud does not scale. You cannot run 100,000 simultaneous cons with 100,000 individual liars. So, somewhere in the last several years, the criminal world did what every industry eventually does when it hits a scaling problem: it automated. Picture the compound. Officially, it might be a call center. Sometimes it is registered as a legitimate business, complete with tax paperwork and a lobby with a company logo. Inside, rows of workers, many of them trafficking victims themselves, coerced into the job under threat of violence. Work from scripts generated in real time by artificial intelligence. The AI does not just write the opening line, it profiles the target, it studies their social media, it builds a psychological map of what they want to hear, what they are afraid of, what will make them pick up the phone a second time. Investigators call this social engineering. Everyone else just calls it being lied to, expertly by a machine that never gets tired and never runs out of new angles. The scheme itself has a name now: pig butchering. The term comes from an old farming idea. You do not slaughter the pig on day one. You feed it, you fatten it, you earn its trust over weeks, sometimes months. In the financial version, a stranger messages you. Wrong number, they say. A friendly mistake. The conversation continues. It becomes a friendship. Sometimes it becomes a romance. And only after real emotional investment has been built does the topic of a can't miss cryptocurrency opportunity casually comes up. By then, you are not talking to a stranger anymore. You are talking to someone you trust. That is the entire business model: trust, manufactured at scale, then liquidated. The financial engineering behind it is where things get genuinely sophisticated. Victims are directed to slick, professional looking trading platforms, custom built to display fake but convincing returns. You put in $1,000, the dashboard shows it growing. You can even withdraw a small amount early, just enough to prove the platform is real. That withdrawal is not generosity, it is bait, designed to unlock a much larger deposit next time. Once the amount on the screen looks meaningful, the platform freezes it. Taxes are suddenly due, a verification fee appears, a process delay is explained away. Every excuse exists for one purpose: to extract one more transfer before the account disappears entirely. And so does the person who built the friendship in the first place. For a long time, this operated in the shadows, region by region, syndicate by syndicate, difficult for any single police force to see the full shape of. Then investigators started connecting the dots. Operation First Light, coordinated by Interpol across the first 4 months of this year, moved from intelligence gathering into raids, frozen bank accounts, frozen digital wallets, and formal requests for international notices against the network's leadership. In Thailand, police uncovered a laundering scheme where a 20-year-old suspect's digital wallet alone had processed more than $122 million in under a year, cycled through cross-chain cryptocurrency swaps specifically designed to make the money trail vanish. In Singapore, a commodity trading firm nearly lost $6.6 million to criminals impersonating one of its own suppliers. A scheme stopped only because authorities used a stop payment system built for exactly this moment, fast enough to free the transfer before it finished moving. The scale of what investigators found forced a new kind of admission. Financial crimes experts with Interpol's leadership described what is happening now as nothing less than the industrialization of fraud. Not an exaggeration, a technical description. assembly lines, quality control, performance matrix for the workers, whether willing or coerced. Reports from this year's threat assessment estimated that fraud enhanced by artificial intelligence is now roughly 4.5 times more profitable than the old fashioned kind. Some networks have gone further, still deploying what researchers call agentic systems. Artificial intelligence that does not just assist a human scammer but plans and executes entire campaigns on its own, from selecting a target to closing the transaction with almost no human decision making required at all. This is where the crack starts to show because a system built for speed and scale also leaves a wider trail. Cross border cooperation, something criminal networks used to count on as their greatest protection, started working against them instead when Mako police ran community outreach as part of the crackdown. They discovered a resident who had already been manipulated into believing she was under a real investigation, a scam layered on top of the fear the original scam had created. In Eswatini, authorities dismantled a network running illegal gambling and impersonation scams so elaborate that when they raided the compound, they found a full replica of a Brazilian police station inside it, complete with fake uniforms and fabricated signage, built purely to convince victims on video calls that the man speaking to them carried real legal authority. The fallout has been uneven, and that unevenness is the most uncomfortable part of this story. Some leaders are identified, named, pursued through Interpol notices, most are not. The people arrested in these raids are frequently the workers inside the compounds, some of them trafficking victims, coerced into running the very scripts that stole other people's savings. The financial architect sits higher up, insulated by shell companies and intermediaries, and they remain difficult to touch. Meanwhile, the victims, the people on the other end of those carefully engineered conversations, rarely get their money back. The funds move too fast through too many jurisdictions, converted into assets too quickly to claw back. Regulators call the recovery rate on pig butchering losses one of the lowest in modern financial crime. So, what does this mean for you? Scrolling through messages from strangers you have never met, the old advice was simple: do not wire money to someone you have never seen in person. That advice still matters, but it is no longer sufficient. The thread has been automated. The stranger who reaches out to you, warm, patient, endlessly interested in your life, may not be a person choosing their words at all. It may be a system that has already read your public posts, modeled your interest, and calculated exactly which sentence is most likely to keep you talking. Financial relief messages, phony job offers, recovery scams that promise to get your original losses back for one more upfront fee. All of it is projected to grow this year specifically because economic anxiety makes people more willing to believe a stranger who says they can help. $293 million dollars was intercepted that will never look small in hindsight because the industry behind it did not shrink after the raids, it adapted. The way every industry adapts when a competitor gets shut down and the market opportunity remains wide open. The compounds get rebuilt in new jurisdictions. The script gets better, the artificial intelligence writing them gets better at reading you than you are not reading it. The next message that arrives claiming to be a wrong number is not a mistake. It is a factory floor decision made about you before you ever type the reply.